Today on the newscast, U.S. F-16 fighter jets head to the Middle East as a warning to Iran. Plus, is Joe Biden meddling in Israel's domestic politics? Find out next. Hey folks, Eric Stacklebeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We told you a little over a week ago here on the newscast about a confrontation at sea between the U.S. Navy and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC for short. Now, in that incident, about a week and a half ago, the IRGC attempted to seize two fuel tankers in the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Now, obviously, a good deal of the world's oil supply travels through the Strait of Hormuz every day, as we've broken down for you here previously on the newscast. But in this incident, Iran attempted to seize these oil tankers. What they do, folks, is they essentially man the IRGC speedboats, but these are armed. They are well armed inside these speedboats. They are large, and there is quite literally a swarm of these IRGC speedboats. And what they'll do is they will surround a ship on all sides. They will board the ship, and they will seize the ship at gunpoint and tow it back to Iran. This has happened many times over the years. The IRGC is acting with increased frequency with these acts of what can only be described, in my view, as piracy on the high seas. Well, in that incident about 10 days ago, the U.S. Navy intervened and chased off the IRGC. They were not successful in seizing these two oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Again, it was a U.S. Navy destroyer, and that followed a similar incident just last month, and we reported on this here in the newscast as well, when the U.S. and British navies essentially joined forces and scared off some IRGC boats as well that were attempting to cause more havoc at sea and hijack another vessel there. So this is a persistent pattern that we see. And as I said last week here in the newscast, when we see these patterns in the world's most volatile and chaotic and strategic region, the Middle East, we follow them, and we follow them closely, and we see where these patterns are heading, clearly heading towards confrontation if it continues. The U.S. is trying to head that off at the pass. We'll tell you what they're doing in a second. And plus, Joe Biden, as we've reported here in the newscast as well, none too happy with the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. He is reportedly planning to make a call to Bibi today, Monday, July 17th, to voice his displeasure. We'll tell you what he's unhappy about, and is he meddling in Israel's domestic politics and crossing a line? We'll break it all down. Before I do, just a very quick reminder to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Folks, we're breaking down the kind of stories, as you can see, that the mainstream media is virtually ignoring. You're going to get the inside story many times on the ground in Israel. We are there frequently and throughout the region as well, throughout the Middle East and beyond, right here on the Watchman News channel. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single upload in these Bible times in which we are living right now. Remember, what happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. It will profoundly affect all of our lives, no matter where we live. And by the way, we're reporting not only on the Middle East here in Israel and all things happening there, but China, Russia, right here in the West where I'm living, the Great Reset and that sinister agenda, much more right here on the Watchman News channel. Okay, let's break it down. Let's get into the big story today that, again, the mainstream media pretty much yawned at. Over the weekend, U.S. F-16 fighter jets headed to the Middle East as a warning and a message to the Iranian regime. Essentially, folks, they are trying to deter Iran from, or the U.S. is trying to deter Iran from any further attempts to seize shipping in the Persian Gulf region. Now, there are already U.S. A-10 Warthogs in the region as well. These F-16 fighter jets will join them, and they will monitor what's going on in the waters below, the waters of the Middle East. Again, a message and a warning to Iran. It's an act of deterrence by the U.S.? Will the show of force, and this isn't the first time, we've reported on this many times over the past few months, the U.S. with shows of force, sending fighter jets, sending nuclear submarines, and more to the region. Every time we hear it is a warning to Iran, a signal to Iran to back off, and yet every time Iran seems to continue with these provocations. So will sending F-16 fighter jets work to deter Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps? We shall see. But you may be asking, well, why isn't it working? This would seem to be enough to deter any rogue regime and terrorist actors in the region. Why isn't it working? Folks, I think the answer is real simple, because Iran does not believe that the Biden administration is serious. They don't believe that there is any teeth or muscle behind these moves being made by the administration in Washington. That is very, very clear. And why would Iran think that? I think first and foremost, the number one reason is that the Biden administration has been tripping over itself in a desperate attempt, an embarrassing attempt, I have to say, for me as an American, to reestablish the Iran nuclear deal. The Biden administration is pursuing the Iranian regime in its efforts to try to come to some sort of new version of that disastrous Iran deal, which was the height of appeasement when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. So if you're the Iranian regime, you see that, you say, wow, they're chasing after us, begging us for a deal. They're prepared to give us billions of dollars in sanctions relief. And all the while, we continue to cause havoc in the waters of the Middle East, attack U.S. troops in Syria and Iraq, provoke Israel on its borders, and arm our terror proxies on Israel's borders. And oh, by the way, also even plan to assassinate former Trump administration officials on U.S. soil. Iran has engaged in all of this, folks, in the past year alone, and yet the Biden administration is still looking for a deal. And this is why we've maintained here for months on the newscast that when, not if, Israel is forced to take action against Iran's nuclear facilities, they will very likely be forced to do it alone without the support of this current administration in Washington. Another symbol of that? Well, as I mentioned at the top, Joe Biden and his administration are none too happy with Benjamin Netanyahu's new government. Biden said last weekend that this is the most extreme government he's ever seen in Israel, and he railed against Israel's ongoing judicial reform plans. Biden apparently today, Monday the 17th, is going to call Bibi and voice his displeasure about Bibi's government and its plans to enact judicial reform in Israel. Now, it's one thing for people in Israel to protest and voice their displeasure. Israel is a democracy, and by the way, there are a good deal of people in Israel who agree with the judicial reform as well. That's one thing. It's another thing entirely for the United States to come out and frequently publicly criticize internal Israeli politics and get involved, essentially meddle in an internal Israeli domestic dispute. I don't see that happening here in the U.S. when we have internal divides about a host of issues in this country. I don't see Israeli leaders weighing in and blasting one side or the other. So really, in my view, a breach of diplomatic protocol here by the Biden administration. And this adds to the fact that Biden has yet to even extend an invite to Netanyahu to visit the White House. At the same time, Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, is on his way to D.C. right now. He will be speaking before a joint session of Congress this week. But president in Israel, that position is more of a ceremonial post. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that's the position that ultimately the prime minister, his government, makes the decisions in Israel. And Biden pretty clearly is showing daylight between the U.S. and Israel right now. And what do Israel's enemies, and America's enemies for that matter, because Israel and America share common foes, what are the enemies of Israel in the United States thinking right now, chief among them Iran and its proxies, as they see the divide between Israel and the U.S.? Folks, this is the exact wrong message to send to the Iranian regime right now. We're following all this very closely. Never a dull moment. The Middle East never sleeps, as we've reported many times here on the newscast. We will continue to follow it for you. Hey, God Almighty is in control, and He still sits on the throne amid all the chaos. So take heart and be encouraged. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the Watchman Newscast. Until tomorrow, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.